Okay, so I want to tell a little story about this guy I used to know named Lee. Lee Abelkop. I met Lee when I was living at an absorption center in Tiberias, aka Tveria, up in the north of Israel. I stayed in Tveria from January through May 2015, almost exactly 5 months. And Lee also happened to be staying there. We lived in this place together called the Arazim, which is basically the projects and really, really shitty projects on top of it. Why the Israeli government would house new immigrants, Olim, in a shithole like this, it was pretty shameful, honestly. And thank God they eventually condemned the Arazim a couple months into our stay, and they moved us to a nicer building. But for the first few months, we lived in this rat hole, and I don't know why Lee was there, because this guy was basically richer than God. He's an American guy from California, San Diego. His father immigrated from South Africa and started a bunch of car dealerships in the San Diego area and got filthy fucking rich. I mean, these people were worth tens of millions of dollars. Apparently, they're like third generation rich because Lee's grandpa founded the stock market in South Africa and was worth like over $100 million. This is a guy who never really had to work a day in his life. You know, outside working in his dad's car dealerships with the expectation he's going to take them over for his father. When his father retires, he's never had to have a job. He's never had to do shit, all right? And just cradle to grave, silver spoon. But he really, really tried to be like an ordinary, normal guy. But he tried a little too hard to the point where it almost got annoying. It's like, Lee, you've got like $500,000 in your fucking bank account, plus tens of millions coming in a trust fund. Why don't you get your own apartment? Or even if you want to be down to earth and live in the Arazim, they have fucking rats inside the cupboards and shit. They had to tape up our like under the kitchen sink, right, in our apartment, because there's literally rats in there. It's disgusting. Hey, like, why don't you get your own apartment? They're only like $400 a month. Get your own apartment, hang out with us during the day, and then go back there at night. Why are you living in here with roommates? It was 4 roommates in one of these shitty apartments. And 2 per room. Oh man, and you want to talk about an alcoholic, right? Obviously, money doesn't solve everything. Some things it makes worse. Like when you have the ability to buy as much liquor as you possibly can and never worry about your budget, and you're already an alcoholic, yeah, look out. Because this guy drank more than almost anyone I ever met in my life. Right? This guy's only 24, and he's already like, oh man, I can't even say it. Like, he's at the level of alcoholism you'd expect of like a 50 or a 60-year-old. He's already getting those alcohol tremors when he stops drinking. And I mean when he doesn't drink for like 24 hours. Like his hands start shaking. He has fucking Parkinson's or something. Like, you're 24 and you're already getting those? God damn, you need to stop drinking. And amazingly, this guy used to be a superstar athlete, professional athlete. Like, when he was in high school, he was a kicker on the football team. His high school in San Diego. No, not just any kicker. This guy was basically the best kicker in the entire country. I'm talking every single Division I school, from LSU, Alabama, every school you could think of, USC, they all came to him with scholarship offers. Everyone wanted this guy as a kicker. This guy's in high school, and he could kick a fucking 71-yard field goal. Hey, don't believe me? I can show you on YouTube. It's still there. He could kick over 75 yards off a tee, like on a kickoff. just insane. And he was just an all-around athlete in general. And then after high school, he decides not to go to college, gets an offer to play professional soccer in the UK. This wasn't the first division like the Premier League. I think it was maybe the second division down. But he gets paid like, I don't know, $500,000 for one season of pro soccer. Show me highlights of him scoring a couple of goals. And I'm like, God damn. You get offers from college football, pro soccer, could have played in the NFL. And hell, even if your athletic career fails, you got millions of dollars coming to you someday. Jesus, guy. Some people just have it fucking made. But like I said, he was just a raging drunk. This guy would drink all fucking day, sometimes starting in the morning. I've seen him go through 3 bottles of liquor in one day. It wasn't all him. It was him and a couple other guys. But he would buy a bottle in the morning, finish it by lunchtime, him and this Ukrainian guy, Vasa. You know how those guys drink. By dinner time, they'd go through the second bottle. We'd go to the liquor store, get another one. And then by the end of the night, they'd go through 3 whole bottles. So it's like 1.5 bottles for each of them. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. I don't drink that much in 2 years. I never drink. I'm a non-drinker. But even when I was, you know how long it took me to drink that much? Even in the army? Fuck me. And, you know, he was a nice guy. He was a cool guy. He could be a douchebag at the same time. Kind of an elitist douchebag. We always wondered why he kept telling us exactly how much money. Like, yeah, I got like $490,000 in my checking account. Why are you telling us this? Lee, we're a bunch of broke-ass immigrants. Hint, hint, this is why we're living in that shithole, the Arizim. You know, like, are you trying to make us feel bad or what? Fuck. And, like, I tried to play him one of my hip-hop songs, because you know I'm a rapper. He asked me to play it for him, and then this asshole gets up and literally walks away in the middle of a song. And I didn't even know what to say. And, you know, he was a pretty physically tough guy. Like I said, he was a world-class athlete before he started getting drunk and fat. At this point, he was balding already. He had a beer belly. But he used to be in incredible shape, and I guess he took some kind of karate or boxing too. Because this guy had one of the hardest right hands I'd ever seen. He would punch my hands. I would hold my hand out. He'd hit it. He hit my hand so hard that I thought that he would sprain my wrist. I mean, I'd be shaking my wrist like, ow, bro, I think you fucking sprained my wrist, Lee. He didn't, but it felt like it. God damn, please don't ever punch me in the face. Like, I could take a punch. I could really take one. But from him, I'd rather not. No, thank you. But he was also a huge pussy on top of it. He was tough, but he was a pussy. Like, he was one of these guys, unless you literally just punched him right in the face, he would refuse to fight, even when he should. So, we had this guy, Paul, right? Paul was one of the biggest psycho pieces of shit you're ever going to meet in your life. Like, just a straight up, like, abusive psychopath. Well, the Ukrainian guy, Vasa, tragically, his parents were both killed in a car crash when he was 13 or 14 years old in the Ukraine. Ends up in one of those terrible orphanages, right? And Paul decides to start this rumor around the building that Lee was making jokes about this, right? Like, he was actually making jokes about Vasa's parents being dead and him being an orphan. Like, who the fuck would do... Lee would never, ever do something like that. He could be a dick, but never, hell no. And, I mean, almost no one on earth is that cruel. He, again, he wouldn't dream of doing some shit like that, especially to someone he considered his friend. This was his drinking buddy. Like, no. But Paul starts this rumor, and Vasa knows it's not true. He's not going after Lee, right? He knows Paul started this. And you would think that Lee would have just beat the living fuck out of Paul. And he was a lot bigger than Paul. He probably had 40 pounds on him. And he could have ripped this kid to pieces. But that night, we're all chilling in our apartment. And Vasa, because Paul was Russian, right? Russian-American. He's from L.A. But he spoke Russian at home growing up. So he spoke the language fluently, like on a native level. So this other guy, Ukrainian guy, Sender, calls Paul on the phone and starts like yelling at him and talking shit in Russian. And I couldn't understand it. But you know when someone's talking shit, it's universal. And I'm like, and you can hear Paul screaming on the other end of the phone. And like, oh fuck, Paul's coming, right? So, like 2 or 3 minutes later, our apartment door bursts open and Paul comes flying into the apartment with a vodka bottle in his hand, making a beeline for Sender. And of course, Vasa, who's like an amateur boxer, this guy is literally like a white Ukrainian version of Mike Tyson. Yeah, he was incredibly scary. You watch the guy shadow box and punch the air for 10 seconds. You watch his footwork, his hands, his speed. He looked like Tyson. Like, I thought I was seeing flashbacks. And I'm like, holy shit. Yo, dude, this guy could have ripped Paul into fucking shreds in about 2 seconds. But I guess he had a lot of restraint. And he figured it was like beating up a child, beating up Paul. It basically was. It's like a little kid to him. So he just picks Paul up and throws him out the front door. And then Lee, meanwhile, isn't doing a damn thing. He's just standing in the corner of the kitchen with like his fist balled up and like his face turning red. Like he's about to do something, but he never did anything. And we're all thinking like, Lee, why didn't you fucking at least punch Paul in the face one time, you fucking pussy? Someone starts a terrible rumor like that? How could you let that slide, bro? Like, just because Vasa let it go, doesn't mean you have to. He didn't do anything. And, although obviously I knew he could have fought if he wanted to. He probably could have fucked up a lot of us. He was even worse when he was drunk. No, when he was drunk, he was willing to fight, but he couldn't fight his way out of a wet paper bag when he was drunk. Some people can't. He couldn't. So one night, he comes home, goes out to a bar or something, gets completely, totally obliterated, right? Even by Lee's standards, he was drunk. Stumbles in the front door of our, this is when we're at the new building now, down the block. Stumbles in the door, almost falls on his face. He's like, yo, man, what the fuck is that? Then he turns around and fucking headbutts a giant ass hole in the wall, because there was this soft ass sheetrock. Like, you practically poke a finger through it. He goes, boom! And then we look up and there's a hole approximately the size of his head. Like a few feet in diameter. We're like, what the fuck? So then he goes and he tries to fight this French guy we had living in our apartment, who I referred to as Bill Clinton, because he looked like a young French version of Bill Clinton, a nickname he liked. I guess he was a Clinton fan or whatever. And I'd be like, yo, what up, Bill? He'd be like, yeah, Bill Clinton! Yeah, Bill Clinton! And Bill Clinton was cool as shit. He was off the chain. He was another fucking delinquent shitbag, like all the people from the army. This guy was always in trouble for something. He said he had like a juvenile record in France. I'm like, how many times have you been to French juvenile hall, Bill? And he's kind of laughed and he's like, a lot. And Lee, after trying to fight this huge-ass French guy, another one that lived in the building. This guy was jacked. I mean, we think of French guys as being these skinny pussies. No. This guy was just like 6'2", 200-something pounds of pure muscle, right? He probably could have crushed Lee like a bug. And he keeps trying to fight this guy. He keeps banging on his door when he's trying to sleep. And the guy almost kills him. Finally, Lee thinks better of that. Then he turns to Bill Clinton and goes, "Hey, you fucking faggot piece of shit. You want to fucking fight?" And, my friend Victor was there, and Victor was always the first one to break up fights. He broke up a couple of mine, but he'd gotten so tired of all the shit there and all the drama, he decided to just stand there and watch. So finally, they go at it, and Bill Clinton, like 2 seconds into this fight, just nails Lee with this like roundhouse karate kick and like kicks him straight into a wall, almost knocks him out. Like his head hits the wall, falls to the floor. Then he gets up and tries to like take Bill Clinton to the floor, and they end up going to the floor, and Bill Clinton chokes Lee out within about 20 or 25 seconds. And it's funny, Lee actually asked me if he should fight Bill Clinton. Never had this in my life. "Hey, bro, should I fight this guy? You think I can beat him?" Like, when you're sober, yes, I think you can kick his ass. When you're wasted, nah. You're going to lose, Lee. Don't do it. He looks like he can fight. Just don't. Gets his ass whooped. And then he, like, denies it the next day. He's like, "Man, I didn't lose that fight." Lee, we were all watching. You got choked out in 20 seconds. That guy manhandled your ass. Just give it up. Like I said, you can beat him sober, okay? But you weren't sober, and he got you. Just forget about it. He's a fucking sore loser. Yeah. And, oh, man. But we got along most of the time. He was usually cool. And I had this thing where my favorite serial killer is Joel Rifkin. And there's this moment in the Joel Rifkin documentary where the cop, one of the cops that called in the dead body, the dead prostitute he got caught with in his truck, red-handed, referred to this girl's body as an expired cadaver. But in his thick New York accent, it comes out, "expired cadaver in the back of the truck." And Lee this amused him to no end, right? So he started referring to me as expired cadaver. He's like, "What's up, Dave? What's up, Levy? You expired cadaver? Hey, bro, don't be an expired cadaver." And it was kind of became like a running gag between the two of us. But, yeah, so when he was drunk, also, he would get really, really emotional. I'm talking like a fucking 3-year-old girl. He'd start, like, walking around, hugging us, crying, like, "I'm gonna miss you guys so much. I love you. You're my friends." And we're like, "Okay, Lee. Okay. We get it. All right." Only when he was drunk. But funny, after all this, after he left the Taveria, right, and moved on with his life, we never heard from him ever again, right? None of us have gotten a call from him in the last 5 years. And not to say maybe he wouldn't talk to us if we called him, but we just kind of felt, yeah, it's not even worth it. Forget it. And that was it. I haven't talked to him in a long ass time. Although, when I start my business and I get rich, like richer than him, which I plan on, I got a good plan, I will call him to rub it in like he used to do to us. Yeah. So, that was the story of my one-time friend Lee in Taveria. Rich-ass motherfucker that's never had to work a day in his life. Not really. And really honestly has it all. What a guy. What a fucking guy.